Hello, my friends in Christ. Get ready, because the story I'm going to tell you in this video is not just about a special place, but about the power that faith has to transform the darkest of scenarios into the brightest of miracles. Have you ever found yourself thinking about how a simple prayer can change the course of something that seemed hopeless? Or how the presence of something greater can calm the most furious storm within us? Today, we're going to delve into a narrative that will make you feel this firsthand, a true story of a hidden sanctuary, of a moment of pure threat and of an intervention so profound that it touched the souls of everyone involved. And if you have someone very dear who needs a special prayer right now, someone you love and who is going through a difficult time, I ask you, write that person's name in the comments. We will include each of these names in our main prayer with a rosary, asking Our Lady to intercede for all of them with love and hope. Hidden in the verdant embrace of a small hill, where time seemed to slow down and the breeze whispered ancient secrets among the trees, there was a cave of rare and serene beauty. It was not just a rock formation, but a natural sanctuary that harbored an indescribable peace, a true refuge for the soul. The entrance, adorned with moss and small wildflowers that clung to the damp stones, invited a dip in its stillness. Inside, the soft sound of a stream that meandered across the cave floor, carving its way through polished pebbles and smooth rocks, created a constant and soothing melody. Sunlight, filtered through the dense foliage outside, timidly entered through a crack at the top, creating a golden beam that danced over an image. At the heart of this blessed grotto, in a naturally formed niche, rested a statue of Our Lady. It was a simple beauty, illuminated by a natural light that seemed like a divine spotlight, and its features conveyed a serenity so profound that it filled the entire space, inviting all who entered to prayer and meditation. It was a sacred place, simple, but overflowing with a presence that many felt was the very presence of the Heavenly Mother. But the peace of this sanctuary, so carefully preserved, was threatened on a day that began like so many others. A group of young people who described themselves as rebels and without faith invaded the cave. They did not come seeking prayer or solace. They came with the intention of disrespect, of breaking the stillness and tarnishing the purity of that sacred place. With heavy steps and harsh words, they advanced, their eyes filled with youthful anger, perhaps even with unrecognized pain, seeking to shock and provoke. Their hands carried spray paint and objects that seemed ready to damage whatever they found in front of them. The sound of the stream, once so melodious, seemed to fall silent in the face of the discord that was taking hold. The statue of Our Lady, which had previously radiated such a soft light, now seemed to gaze at them with an expression of sadness and patience, as if it already knew the outcome that was to come, and as if its presence were capable of enveloping even those hardened hearts. As the young men prepared for the act of vandalism, with spray cans in hand and defiant laughter echoing off the walls of the cave, something unexpected happened. The air inside the cave, which had previously seemed light, began to vibrate. It was not a physical tremor, but an almost imperceptible change, a sensation that infiltrated the skin. A soft fragrance, like that of freshly picked roses, began to perfume the environment, not artificially, but as if coming from some ethereal place. The Vandals, who had been focused on their objective, stopped for a moment. Their movements hesitated, and the laughter died on their lips. One of them, the loudest, looked around in confusion, while the others felt a strange pang in their chests, something they couldn't identify, but which prevented them from going on. It was as if an invisible hand was restraining them, not by force, but by a calm, unshakable authority that permeated the very air of the cave. It was at that very moment of hesitation that the first figures emerged from the cave entrance. It was the procession of the faithful, a group of people of all ages who went to the grotto every year for a special prayer of thanksgiving. They walked in silence, some quietly singing Marian hymns, with lit candles in their hands, their faces illuminated by pure and simple devotion. The contrast between the two groups was striking. On one side, the contained fury of the Vandals. On the other, the serenity of those who came in search of peace. When the first faithful saw the scene, the young men with the instruments of destruction, the statue of Our Lady in danger, a murmur of astonishment and sadness spread. At first, there was a brief moment of panic, of fear. But almost instantly, the silence and calm emanating from the statue and from the place itself seemed to envelop everyone, including the faithful, transforming the shock into an observant and faith-filled stillness. One of the faithful, an elderly woman with a face marked by wisdom and prayer, known for her deep faith and serenity, stepped forward. Her gentle eyes fixed on the young Vandals, not with reproach or anger, but with a compassion that seemed to come from the depths of her soul. She did not shout nor scold. Instead, her voice, calm and gentle, filled the space. "My children," she said with a gentleness that immediately disarmed the tension, "why is there so much pain in your hearts? This mother you see here, in this grotto, does not judge. She only loves. She welcomes everyone no matter what they have done or who they are. If you feel anger or disappointment, give it to her. She does not defend herself, but her love can heal. See this light, smell this perfume. It is not a miracle, but a presence that invites us to open our hearts." Her words were like a balm, and the fragrance of roses intensified, enveloping everyone, the faithful and, surprisingly, the Vandals. At that moment something extraordinary happened. It was not a thunderclap, nor a spectacular vision, but an overwhelming and collective sensation that filled the cave. The young Vandals, who until then had seemed impervious to any feeling, were overcome by an emotion that took them by surprise. Their eyes widened, and the anger on their faces was replaced by astonishment, and then by deep pain. The hands holding the spray cans fell limp. They felt palpably a loving and unconditional presence enveloping them, a peace so great that it seemed to dissolve all the aggression and emptiness they carried. Tears began to roll down the faces of one of them, then another, until they were all crying, not from sadness, but from a sudden release, a recognition of a goodness they had never known. It was the presence of Our Lady, silent, loving, acting directly on the most hardened hearts, showing them that faith is not imposed, but offered, and that love can break down the highest barriers. The silence that followed was filled only by the weeping of the young people and the soft murmur of the stream. The faithful, with their eyes filled with tears, witnessed the transformation. There were no cries of victory, no accusations. The lady who had spoken stretched out her hands, not to punish, but to welcome. The young Vandals, one by one, knelt before the statue, not out of fear, but out of a genuine impulse of contrition and a newfound faith. They asked forgiveness, not only of the faithful, but, in their hearts, of the mother they had thought of disrespecting. In an act of love and conversion that few could have foreseen, they not only gave up their attempt, but took their own rags and began to clean up the mess they had already made. They joined the faithful, no longer as enemies, but as brothers in a joint prayer, where forgiveness, faith and love for Jesus and Our Lady became the common language that united everyone in that sacred place. It was a happy ending, not from a fairy tale, but from a divine reality, where the worst was avoided, not by force, but by the overwhelming power of faith. The transformation that day was not a fleeting flash of emotion, but the foundation of a profound change that took root in the hearts of those young people. They not only cleaned the cave, but began to clean their own lives, abandoning the companions and habits that dragged them into darkness. Some became regular visitors to the grotto, no longer with spray cans in their hands, but with rosaries, and their previously rough voices joined in with the hymns of the faithful. The community, which had initially looked at them with apprehension, witnessed the metamorphosis with astonishment and emotion, and the story of the conversion of the rebels spread, becoming yet another living testimony to the power of divine intervention. They became examples that love and patience can reach even the most distant souls, and that Our Lady's mercy has no limits, opening paths to return and redemption where there seemed only darkness. The scent of roses that enveloped the cave, the sense of an almost tangible presence, are powerful reminders that the sacred is not confined to temples or statues, but resides in the very essence of existence, accessible to all who open their hearts. The cave, in its simplicity, represents the sanctuary that each of us can build within ourselves. A space of peace, of prayer, where external adversities can be transformed by faith. It is a constant invitation to seek that inner stillness, to dialogue with the divine, to allow the light of hope to dispel the shadows of fear and doubt. Every sincere prayer, every act of forgiveness, every gesture of compassion that we perform, is an echo of that divine intervention, a sign that the grace of Our Lady continues to work miracles, great and small, in our lives. She reminds us that even in the moments of greatest desolation, a loving presence watches over us, waiting only for a sign of openness to wrap us in its mantle of peace and guide us back to the light. And this story, my friends, is not just a beautiful tale. It is a mirror for our daily lives. How many times are we invaded by bad feelings, anger, envy, discouragement, that try to vandalize the peace in our hearts? How many times do we forget that prayer, this simple conversation with God and Our Lady, can be our greatest defense and our greatest strength? We need to remember to say our prayers every day, to preach the word not only with our mouths but with our actions, to truly forgive, to seek peace in our hearts even in the face of adversity. We need to have more faith and believe that conversion is possible, not only for others, but for ourselves, in each small step towards good. May the presence of Our Lady who transformed those young people accompany us. Help us to convert daily, to be more loving, to have more compassion. And again, if you know someone who needs this prayer, this divine touch, do not hesitate. Write their name in the comments right now. Let's add all these names to our main prayer with the rosary, asking Our Lady for her intercession for each one of them. What did you think of this story? Did it touch your heart in any way? I would love to hear your comments about the power of faith, conversion, and forgiveness. Share your reflections and your own experiences. Your opinion is very important to us. And if you like this video and feel that it brought a message of hope to you, please like it and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more inspiring stories like this one. May the peace of Our Lady be with you.